I do, however, know what it is like to stand helplessly by while the life of an unborn child that I and my wife created slipped away, and I've had to do that on more than one occasion. So despite my opposition to abortion, I believe that women are entitled to the best medical care and treatment throughout the duration of their pregnancy. And I also accept that in rare cases, doctors must intervene to save the lives of women, even if by doing so, it is inevitable that this will end the pregnancy, resulting in the death of the unborn child due to immaturity. It's a sad but unavoidable reality. And I know that there are people listening to this debate tonight who, like me, oppose abortion, and there are those who are listening to the debate who believe abortion should be available to women regardless of the circumstances. But that is a debate for another night. Tonight we are discussing a very specific set of circumstances: the provision of medical intervention in life and death situations. And as someone who describes himself as pro-life, I could not, in good conscience, stand over a health system that would hesitate or delay due to a lack of legal clarity in giving appropriate medical treatment to women when there's a real and substantial risk to their lives. To stand over such a situation is not pro-life, in my opinion, as both lives may be lost where that medical treatment is delayed or denied. The PMB before us this evening is calling for the government to do two things. Firstly, to publish the report on the expert group, and secondly, to legislate for what is known as the X case. And on the first point, I want to welcome the commitment by the government to publish the report next week. On the latter, I know that there are some people who are of the opinion that there is no need for legislation in relation to the X case, as existing medical council guidelines provide adequate protection for women whose lives are at a real and substantial risk. And on reading the guidelines, one could see why some people may hold that view, because the guidelines state abortion is illegal in Ireland except where there is a real and substantial risk to the life as distinct from the health of the mother. They go on to say that it may be necessary to intervene to terminate the pregnancy to protect the life of the mother while making every effort to preserve the life of the baby. And that argument can be made and has been made by people who state that there is no reason, excuse or legal impediment why a woman faced with a real and substantial risk to her life would be denied a medical intervention to save that very life, even if it results in the termination of her pregnancy. But I say that, however, as a person who will never have to make that decision, who will never be forced to weigh up the circumstances when it is appropriate to intervene to give medical treatment to a woman whose life is at risk, which may result in the termination of her pregnancy. And the issue we face is how the Supreme Court ruling and medical council guidelines are being implemented or not being implemented, as may be the case, by those tasked with the responsibility of intervening to save the life of a woman. No one, whether you are pro-life or pro-choice, could argue that we can allow a situation exist where there is uncertainty on when a member of the medical profession can intervene to save a woman's life. There is no room for grey areas here. Women die in those grey areas, and it is unacceptable to me as somebody who is pro-life. As I said previously, I know the doctors are seeking legal clarity, and the government have said that they will provide this legal clarity. But to date, they have failed to state how or when they will provide it. And I want to see this certainty given to our doctors. But more importantly, I want women who are faced with a real and substantial risk to their life to know that if there is a need for medical intervention to save their life, then they will be able to get it without delay. And for me, this is what any legislation brought forward needs to achieve. Certainty for the medical profession and reassurance for women. Equally as important, though, for me, given my views on abortion, is the protection of the life of the unborn. And any medical intervention to save the life of the mother must also be matched with every effort being made to save the life of the unborn. And I know that this will not always be the case, but it must be the objective. Over the last few days, I have received many phone calls, emails and texts from people who I believe I share the same view on abortion with, asking me not to support the PMB before us tonight. They fear that the introduction of any such legislation, given that legal clarity to doctors and when they can intervene, is the thin edge of the wedge and may result in the opening of the floodgates to abortion on demand. And introducing legislation to give legal clarity to the medical profession, to give reassurance to women faced with a real and substantial threat to their life, and which also ensures that every effort is made to save the life of the unborn, will not, in my opinion, open any floodgates to abortion on demand. Now, some have also tried to suggest that Sinn Féin, in putting forward this PMB, is pro-abortion. We are opposed to what is known as abortion on demand. It's not a term that I like. But what we are in favour of, and we've never hid from this fact, is to legislate to protect the lives of women faced with a real and substantial risk to their lives. And we make no apology for that. And as an individual who is pro-life and opposed to abortion, I must set aside my own personal views, no matter how uncomfortable that may be for me personally. I have to face up to my responsibilities as a legislator, because if I fail to do that, then women's lives are put at risk. And I am not willing to allow that happen while I have the power to do something about it, regardless of my personal views on abortion. I will not bury my head in the sand like those who have served in this House before me for the last 20 years and try and wish the problem away. I refuse to do that, and shame on anyone else who does.